What's good, everybody? Now, I'm well aware that most of you will skip to the end of the video in order to hear about the main event prediction, since it's like the only real fight on the card. But hear me out, alright? This might be the mental illness in me talking, but does this card not have a couple bangers on it? Alright, Orolbai, the GOAT. Shout out to the one person who's really excited about him fighting. You know who you are. Alvarez on here for all of us Spanish casuals. And the flyweights, you know, Johnson and Ochoa. They're gonna give us a scrap, bro. It's gonna be that one flyweight fight that always delivers on the card. So, is it the worst card of the year, including fight nights? Probably. Did I watch hours of tape to, make my predictions for this video? Also, yes. So, let's get right into the prelims. Starting off, and this is crazy that this is opening up the fight night. Orolbai opening up the card, bro. Jeremiah Wells versus Makhachev Orolbai. Honestly, it's criminal that they put this fight so far down the card. I'm way more excited about this matchup than I am in the Dante Johnson and Eric McConico fight. Like, who cares about that fight? Genuinely, alright? Sorry to any, McConico fans, if you guys even exist, but let's get into this matchup. Jeremiah Wells, he's done pretty okay ever since he's gotten to the UFC. He's 5-2 in the promotion. He's a really big power puncher, right? Especially for welterweight. He hits a lot harder than Orolbai, that's for sure, but he tends to swing really, really wild and has looping punches, looping hooks, and that's going to get exploited. It got exploited by previous opponents. It's going to get exploited by the GOAT Orolbai. He's a stocky dude. He's a big aficionado of the compressed man double leg. We all know that double leg takedown where they just throw their whole fucking existence into that shit, but he leaves his neck exposed. And everything in this matchup honestly just points to an Orolbai submission in the first round. Whether it's Orolbai submitting Wells with the front headlock off of like a sloppy takedown, or Orolbai initiates the grappling and actually takes down Wells and gets on an arm, gets a Kimura like we saw in one of his last fights, maybe gets to an arm bar, gets to the back even, anything really Orolbai wants, he can have. Alright, and that includes me, that includes my personal person, Orolbai, hit me up. if you want me, bro. Anyway, everything in this matchup just gives me that Wells, he has more power on the feet. He's going to try to keep it on the feet as long as possible. So if he shoots, it's going to be either like Orolbai hurt him and he shoots a defensive shot, or the only other way this fight hits the ground is a takedown off of the fence, off of the clinch, typical fence grappling. But however it is, man, I think the most likely submission is Orolbai by rear naked choke in round 1. So that's our go Orolbai. He's going to be getting the victory, all right? Neil Magny versus Ramiz Brahimaj. Now, this is a really interesting matchup style-wise. Both fighters have really similar speed on the feet, to say that they're both really slow. Magny fights behind, the kicks. He's a lot longer than Brahimaj, so he's going to be using that a lot in this matchup. And Brahimaj, likewise, he likes to crash into his opponents with the boxing. Given that he's a shorter dude and Magny's a taller guy, we're going to see a lot of that crash coming down in this matchup, right? On the feet, I do think Magny's going to get slightly the better of Ramiz, mostly due to the frame, mostly due to the height advantage, the reach advantage. But I think the difference comes down to the grappling. Don't get me wrong, all right? Magny is not a slouch in the grappling. He's gotten submission in his career. He's okay defensively, but he's consistently gotten submitted by fighters shorter than him, right? My GOAT, Amasov. My other GOAT, Shavkat. They both submitted him. Burns got him too. I think it was an arm triangle he submitted him with. Brahimaj is just way cleaner and way smoother on the ground. And I can see him catching Magny's neck in a scramble, right? Magny really likes to accept bottom position in a lot of these sequences. So I could see, Magny maybe getting rocked, getting hurt a little bit, dropped. He accepts bottom position. He opens up his guard. Brahimaj transitions to mount and kind of sneaks his arm under for the mounted guillotine. All right, just imagine what Amasov did without jumping to the anaconda choke, just staying there and hitting the mounted guillotine, all right? So give me Brahimaj by submission round 2. The second submission in this card, and I'm telling you guys already, because I've made my picks in advance. I'm not freestyling this shit. I pick a lot of submissions, all right? So be patient with me. Rafael Tobias versus Lucas Fernando. This Rafael Tobias second fight in the UFC. This guy's called the bipolar, all right? I don't know if that's real, if this man actually has the mental disorder. Shout out to him. But the first fight he had in the promotion, he lost to our Kazakh GOAT, Dr. Nurgoze. No shame in losing to Nurgoze, man. He's arguably the best blob coming out of Kazakhstan. But yeah, man, Tobias, he trains at a shooting box with the big dude Bronx himself. He has good takedowns, good passing. He's only lost once in his career when he got chinned, which again, doesn't really worry me. Everyone gets chinned, especially in the higher weight classes. But the issue with Tobias is that I can't say with confidence that he's faced really good competition or even good competition. Outside of his debut with Dr, which, that was a close decision. It was pretty competitive, but Dr won that fight, broke his nose. pretty definitively. All right, Lucas Fernando, on the other hand, he has been against good competition, even if, you know, in his UFC debut he's been fighting in the LFA for some time. He fought Almeida on the Contender Series. He fought Azamat Bekaev in LFA, you know, and Azamat Bekaev is now in the UFC. He has wins in the UFC, so he's fought some better competition. He's a lot quicker and sharper on the feet than Tobias, and he's really good at mixing in kicks and knees in his extended combinations. Now, you guys know how much I love fighters that can throw extended combinations. I'm a sucker for them, all right? But this matchup is really interesting because I feel like they're both the best at what they do. All right, Tobias is a lot more dangerous in the submissions, while Fernando is super lethal on the feet. Given that Lucas is better on the feet, but doesn't have the knockout power. Of course, he's gotten knockouts and, you know, he's hurt people really bad, but he doesn't have that one-punch knockout power the way Alex has, you know, the way we've seen Ilia Topuria do, guys, even Josh Emmett. He doesn't have that one-shot knockout power. I'm going to have to go with Tobias by late submission. And that's crazy. I know he's an underdog. A lot of people aren't picking him on Topology. And I know it's crazy picking 3 fighters in a row by submission, but just know, right? I make these picks as objectively as I can, bro. I try to make these picks in a vacuum. I'm not trying to go 4-4-4 on submissions. This is what I think is going to happen. We've seen Fernando melt under the pressure. I'm counting on a good first round for him. Maybe, you know, good first round. He gets taken down late in the round. And to start the second round, Tobias goes immediately to the takedown, gets him down, and maybe finds, you know, a choke, rear naked choke, finds the back, something like that. It is what it is, man. When there's 2 guys that are really evenly matched, I pick the one that's more dangerous on the ground. It is what it is. Like, if you cannot survive on the feet as a grappler the way you can survive on the feet as on the ground as a striker. Like, you get chinned a lot. Like, it's way easier to get submitted than it is to get chinned if you suck on the ground. All right. Again, not saying Fernando sucks. It is what it is, brother. All right. Vicente Luque versus Tresean Gore. Now, we all know the Vicente Luque game plan in this fight. In his earlier UFC career, he was pretty good on the feet. He was pretty fast and dangerous. But as he's aged, he's lost a lot of the power. He's lost a lot of the chin, which is probably the most important part of this matchup. And I think he just goes now to the submissions. He's gotten submissions all throughout his career. Recently, I think he submitted Kelvin Gastelum. The main issue in this fight is that I think Luque is going to have to wrestle offensively to get Gore on the floor, because I don't see Gore shooting on him by any means, right? Gore knows he has more power on the feet. Tresean is super explosive. He could easily chin Luque if they're striking for any amount of time in the pocket, against the fence, whatever. He's easily chinning Luque. He's going to want to keep this on the feet as much as possible, but I think what happens in this fight is that early, they strike a little bit. You know, all the MMA fights start on the feet. They strike a little bit, but early on, they get entangled into the clinch, and someone gets backed up to the fence. My money is, you know, Luque is forcing the action. When he's up against the fence, he's going to be looking for a takedown, maybe a knee reap, or a takedown from the over-under position. And we've seen Gore's willingness to go for guillotine. So I think what's going to happen is that from the clinch, Luque is going to level change. He's going to get put into the guillotine, you know, purposely or by accident. But he's going to defend it. He's going to use that guillotine position to get to the back of Gore, get to the body lock. He's going to force a takedown. And then in that scramble, because Gore's going to keep scrambling, especially in the early rounds, I think he's going to find an anaconda or Dars. Picking Luque, bro, I feel like I'm losing my mind. But like I say, man, 4 submission picks in a row. I may be losing my mind picking Luque, who's 30 gazillion years of age. But man, I make these picks independent of each other. I'm not picking this fight thinking what happened the fight prior. And I think Luque getting a Dars submission victory here is pretty likely, you know? Gore is only like 4-2 in the UFC. Like he's like 6-4 in his career. He's not that good. And he goes for guillotines. You're not guillotining Vicente Luque. Alright? Luque's gonna use that. He's gonna get to the back. He's gonna force maybe a Kimura from that position. He's gonna force some sort of like response from Gore, and they're gonna end up in that front headlock position. Luque is an expert. He's a killer from there. Alright? So give me Vicente Luque via Don Anaconda or Dars, you know, one of the front headlocks in round 1. On to the next matchup, Dante Johnson versus Eric McConico. The matchup I said I didn't give a fuck about. Alright? Dante Johnson, the only undefeated fighter on the card. He's coming in 8-0. He has a win in the Contender Series. He has 2 wins over Cedricus Dumas and Cody Brundage. And you know, Eric McConico also has a win over Brundage, but he's 2-2 in the UFC. This man has not done that well in the promotion. Everything in this matchup, to me, really points towards Dante Johnson. He's younger. He has better wins. He has better wins over better competition. He's more explosive. He has better power, better combinations. When he smells a finish, you can see in his fights, when he sees that his opponent's hurt, he really goes for it. He does a really good job chasing it and like opening up. And to the credit of McConico, you know, he is crafty. right? He's a lot more responsible defensively, right? Johnson leaves his hands down in every exchange. And watching that Susurkaev fight, because McConico did fight Susurkaev recently, I think 2 fights ago, he did a really good job in that fight, and he was up in my books 2 rounds before, Susurkaev knocked him out. But that happens, bro. He was pulling off that crafty bet, beats Youngin, he was pulling that off until he got knocked out. If this card ends up having one of those moments, one of those Bobby Green, McKinney, or Talbot versus Barcelos moments, it's going to be this fight. Okay, it's going to be McConico winning by 3-round crafty decision, but I think the 4-inch height advantage for McConico is actually going to play against him in this fight. Because Dante Johnson, he wins by like extended combos, leaping, just throwing all his power into his punches. And that's what he's going to have to do to reach McConico. And I think one of those punches touches him on the chin, on the temple, whatever. It's going to be good night, man. McConico is going to have a good first round. He's going to keep the distance. But sooner rather than later, bro, Johnson's going to clip him. There's no way during the 15 minutes of this fight, Johnson doesn't clip him once and at least to a finish. Because if he gets dropped, that's basically the same as getting knocked out against Johnson. He's going to find that finish, all right? So give me Dante via round 2 KO. First round, McConico's feeling it out. Second round, he gets clipped. It is what it is, bro. People get fluked. On to the next fight. Jalen Turner versus Cowboy Fernandes. Now, Cowboy's looked pretty good ever since he's gone into the UFC. He's an accurate striker. He has really good feints. He keeps the distance really well. He sets up his punches and kicks. He keeps distance with those punches and kicks. We saw in the Hardwick fight, he has a really nice leg kick. They have some sting on him. But the issue with Cowboy is that he will not be able to fight the fight that he always fights. I just said fight 4 times in a row. He's not going to be able to fight his own fight, basically. Jalen Turner has a crazy height advantage. I think it's like 6 inches of height and reach advantage. And his way of fighting is nearly the same as Fernandes. So Fernandes is just being like the Dragon Ball Z evolution of himself in this matchup. He's going to, Turner's going to stay way longer against his strikes. Right? He's going to stay super long behind his strikes. Fernandes is not going to shoot in because he's going to get guillotined. He's going to get put into a triangle. Some random bullshit. And the weakness of Turner is on the ground. But I think if Cowboy ends up shooting at some point, it's going to be defensively and after getting pieced up on the feet. And he's not getting a takedown if you're shooting on Turner rocked. Okay, that's just not happening. You're not Renato Moicano, buddy. My first instinct was to pick Turner by decision, where he puts the beats on Fernandes over the 3 rounds. He doesn't let him get anything going. But I think over those 3 rounds, he's going to just melt Cowboy and beat his ass that bad that the ref's going to have to step in, all right? He's one of these guys, Jalen Turner's one of these guys that really snowballs in fights, and he gets better and better the more you let him work. So for me, easiest fight on the card, I think Jalen Turner by round 3 KO TKO, all right? Jalen Turner, he's going to look really good. People are going to be calling for him to get a ranked opponent. Shout out to Jalen Turner. I'm glad he's back. I'm glad he didn't retire, okay? Chidi Njokuani versus Joel Alvarez. Now, my beautiful son, Joel Alvarez, is back in action. He's going to get a win. Thank the heavens, bro. That fight against Almasov, I predicted that. I think I predicted that to the dot. Round 2 submission. But still, man, it was tragic to see my fellow countryman, Joel Alvarez, go out the way he did. But I'm sorry to any Chidi fans out there. I don't know if there are any. But this guy is not complete enough to beat Joel Alvarez. Chidi wins either against mid-MMA fighters or low-volume strikers, right? He has a really good frame for the division. He has really clean Muay Thai, and he uses it really well, right? He uses both his Muay Thai and his frame really well. But he's completely outclassed in every aspect of this fight, right? Maybe if you want to say pure Muay Thai, he's better than Joel Alvarez. But man, Joel's a better striker. He's faster. He has a similar amount of power, maybe even more power, honestly. At any point, he can probably choose to take down Chidi Njokuani if he wants to. And they have the same build, right? He's younger, and they had the same build nearly. I think they're both 6'3", if I'm not wrong, or 6'2". They're both really basically the same physique-wise, except Joel's younger. He has more experience in the UFC, I'm pretty sure. It is what it is, man. Chidi's not getting this shit. I feel like if they stay on the feet, Joel would win a decision, but he's not dumb enough to keep this fight where, the only place where his opponent's going to have a chance. So I have no doubt, maybe round 1, late round 1, early round 2, he's going to level change. He's going to take him down. And I think round 2, no matter what happens in round 1, round 2 is going to be a continuation of the grappling. And he's going to find a ground and pound finish, man. It's going to be one of those finishes where Joel shoots in, gets a takedown, transitions to mount, starts ground and pounding. Chidi Njokuani, he covers up, turns his back, and then Joel Alvarez just starts pounding the side of his head. You know what I'm talking about. Kind of like how Armin Sarukian did him. So give me Joel Alvarez by round 2 TKO, ground and pound. Ref has to step in, all right? Let's hope this happens because I cannot bear to see another Spanish fighter lose, bro. Please. Edson Barboza versus Esteban Ribovics. You're breaking my heart, mijo. Mijo, you're breaking my heart. Like, who in charge of matchmaking has so much hate in their hearts that they cooked up this absolutely foul fight for fucking Barboza, bro? This fight is a perfect example of, like, if I was 10 years younger, bro. Honestly, if Barboza, he's 40 right now. If he was 35, I'd pick him to beat Ribovics. It's that easy, man. Honestly, like, you know, Ribovics, of course, he has good power. He has great heart. We saw it in the fight he had in the Sphere, Fight of the Year. But he has really, really bad striking defense, and he's really sloppy in his striking offense. And he looks dumb as hell, bro. Just look at him. Back in his prime, Barboza would have just had a counter-striking masterclass against Ribovics. Like, there's no way prime or even 35-year-old Barboza loses that fight. But the fact that he's a whole ass decade younger than Barboza and that Ribovics has the power to chin someone like Barboza, especially at this point in his career, man, I could see the first round Barboza stays out of harm's way. He keeps it pretty safe, pretty defensively sound. But this fight goes no longer than 2 rounds, okay? So Esteban Ribovics by round 2 TKO. I hope I'm wrong, okay? I really do. All right, on to the next matchup. Mansour Abdul Malik versus Dustin Stoltzfus. All right, Mansour coming off of his first career loss to Yusri Bolguri, one of Alex Pereira's training partners, right? He's a really lethal kickboxer, so I'm not surprised that Abdul lost that fight. I think I did pick Belgari in that fight, and we saw in that fight Loki got exposed that these guys that are short twitch ability, their gas tanks is fucked up. You know, guys like McGregor, McKinney. Any fighter that generates really crazy power early in the fight tends to leave their gas tank kind of empty near the end, right? But regardless, none of that shit matters in this matchup, bro. Okay, because this dude Stoltzfus has lost to Gastelum in the last calendar year. It's absolutely inexcusable, man. He was getting outboxed. He was getting rocked by Kevin. He was making Kevin Gastelum look like prime Canelo Alvarez. We're going to have to see, you know, obviously the only factor here is how confident Malik is after losing his first professional fight. I think it'll be fine, but yeah, man. Round 1 KO by Abdul Malik however he wants. Leaping left hook to the chin, takedown to ground and pound. I don't care, bro. Round 1 KO, nothing else to say. On to the next matchup and the featured fight of the night. Crazy featured fight to have on a numbered event, bro. We're actually living in a timeline where this is the card. This is a UFC 330, bro. Saved absolutely by its main event. But yeah, man. It's a banger fight, don't get me wrong. It has potential to be fight of the night. Both guys, they fought elite, competition in their division. Johnson went against Temerov, which I'm very high on. He went against Kavanaugh, Van, Almabayev, my Kazakh goat. Ochoa also, he has losses to Kavanaugh and Almabayev. He's fought both of those guys. I think he took them both to decision. But in his last fight against Carpenter, Ochoa looked really good. Both offensively and defensively. He had great head movement, great combos. He wasn't really getting hit clean in any situation, no matter what Carpenter was throwing. I really liked the movement of Carpenter and how he was moving, but I was nervous, like I am for any Charles Johnson opponent, about how he finishes his exchanges. All of the exchanges I was seeing, Ochoa was pulling out when he thought the exchange was over with his hands all the way down by his waist. I really liked, in those fights, I really like watching that kind of fight style when guys just put their hands down and start swinging from the hip. It's entertaining. But against Charles Johnson, man, we saw in the Van and Kavanaugh fights that this guy always catches fighters on the end of exchanges. When they're exiting, when they think they're in the clear and then nothing's going to happen, and it's like, okay, we're going to reset. Charles Johnson just throws a fucking looping punch, a looping hook from hell. And in the flyweight division, honestly, if you're Van, if you're Ochoa, if you're Kavanaugh, you can get away with putting your hands down against 99% of the roster because you're better on the feet, you're cleaner, you have better distance management, but you can't do that with Charles Johnson, bro. You have to be aware of the power, right? Don't be scared of it. Be aware of it. You gotta be aware of the Charles Johnson hands. This guy really has way too much power for the flyweight division, and he has a good frame and good reach, so he's gonna get to your chin. He's gonna touch you, bro. No diddy. All right, Charles Johnson, he has way too much power for this division, and I think even though he's never going to get far in his career, he's never going to get really far in the rankings, especially because of his grappling flaws, I'm going to always pick this guy against flyweight strikers. If you're a flyweight striker and you're young and you're low-key a prospect, right, and you keep your hands down, I'm going to pick Charles Johnson to beat you, especially when he has a height and reach advantage over you, bro, right? Until Charles Johnson doesn't give me a reason to pick him against a striker, I'm going to pick him. So maybe my worst pick on the card. I'm sure everyone is going to be picking Ochoa, but give me Charles Johnson by KO, bro. Give me Charles Johnson, KO round 1. They're both fresh, disengaging within like 2 minutes, like a really early KO. And, you know, you see every Instagram page posting about it. Absolute cinema. Give me Johnson by KO round 1. Unk getting it done. On to the co-main event of the evening. Mackenzie Dern versus Jillian Robertson, man. Mackenzie Dern defending her title against Jillian Robertson. Co-main event is crazy. I know sometimes they put, you know, women's fights, co-main events. It is what it is. Some women's fights are really, really good, and this has the potential to be it. But I don't think if it's a good fight, it'll last very long. All right, let me talk about it. Dern might have one of the most fraudulent belts, like one of the most fraudulent title reigns in UFC history, bro. She got her belt in like low-key a robbery decision against Jandaroba after our GOAT, you know, Zhang Weili graciously gave the belt up, you know, so other fighters could have a chance at some of the glory. But Jillian, I think she's on a completely different level. She's going on a crazy streak. She has a 5-fight win streak. Her only recent loss, I think, was 2022 or 2023 against Baby Shark, Tabitha Ritchie. She's a lot more mobile on the feet than Dern. She has really good power for her division. She actually has some KO wins on her record, right? Unlike Dern, who has 0 KO wins. She's slightly younger, slightly bigger. I'm a little worried for the submission threat, as you should be with anyone going up against Mackenzie Dern, because Jillian also, you know, shoots takedowns with her neck exposed. Shout out to, what do we say? Who are we talking about? Well, someone on this card also shoots takedown with her neck exposed, but I don't understand why Jillian is the underdog in this fight. That's my main issue. If I'm Jillian, right? If I'm Jillian, if I'm her camp, whatever, I'm not worried in the slightest for the takedown threat or the stand-up. All right, I'm worried for the submissions. I'm worried for the sweeps off of the bottom, but I'm not worried for the power, right? Mackenzie Dern has never gotten a knockout. And I'm not worried for the takedown. Mackenzie Dern is more of an, you know, scramble fighter. She shot really sloppy takedowns we saw in the title fight. She's more of a clinch fighter. Honestly, I see Jillian doing a 50-45 on Dern really easily. Like, that's what I see in my mind. But it feels wrong picking a champion, you know, if she really is a champion. It feels wrong picking a champion to get 50-45. So I'm going to say Jillian via 49-46. She keeps her distance. She pumps her boxing really well. She defends the takedowns. Gets an underhook anytime Mackenzie Dern level changes. And yeah, she becomes an actual champion of the division. Because Mackenzie Dern right now feels fake as hell. And also, it's been how long since she's fought, man? Mackenzie Dern, get your ass off the belt. Alright? On to the main event of the evening. This fight has had me so nervous ever since it was announced, man. This last calendar year, the losses of Strickland, Merab, Ilya, I've been shitting my pants, bro. Guys that were undefeated champions or hadn't lost in a long time, or hadn't lost, you know, for years, like Merab. These guys, they're getting kind of cooked, bro. They're getting kind of cooked by these contenders that don't really seem to have a chance. Like, we knew that Justin Gaethje had the power to KO Ilya, but we did not expect an ass whooping over 4 rounds. We knew that Strickland had good takedown defense, but we did not expect Khamzat to just gas out in the second round. We knew that Petr Yan was good, you know. We knew that he was good, but Merab 50-45'd them in their first fight. How were we supposed to know that Petr Yan was going to come back, analyze the data on some supercomputer shit, and then just dominate Merab over 5 rounds? It's crazy, man. And this fight, I think, is a lot of the same. I feel like the general public, as you should be, are expecting Islam to win. Islam's a better MMA fighter all around. He's a bit worse in terms of striking, right? But I think he makes up for it, given that he sets up all of his strikes with takedowns and he sets up his takedown with strikes. The main story with this fight, in my opinion, is that neither fighter really has the ability to finish each other. And that sounds crazy because, of course, anything can happen. These two can and have finished opponents in the past, right? I think just 2 fights ago, Makhachev finished Renato Moicano. A couple fights ago, Ian Garry finished... Who was it? I don't even remember. It's been a while since Ian Garry's finished anyone. Bro needs to switch off the vegan diet. But I think they don't pose the biggest finishing threat to each other. These guys, I'm not worried for either guy finishing the other. If I have to pick somebody, you know, gun to my head, who's going to finish who in this fight, it's going to be Islam by submission. But the 4-inch height and reach advantage with Garry is going to make it a lot harder for anything to get going in the grappling. For, you know, Islam to pass Ian's guard, he's going to be a lot more sticky in that department. Pause. Goddamn. But yeah, man, and even in the striking, even if Ian is better, you know, he has better kicks, he has a longer reach, he has better distance control, he's pretty fast for a striker. I don't think, you know, he's going to be able to do any significant, real bad damage to Islam Makhachev, even if he does end up having higher volume, and by the end of the fight, it says he outstruck Islam 2-1. It's not going to, they're not going to feel like damaging shots. We saw in the Shavkat fight, we saw in the Bilal fight, he didn't damage these guys that bad, all right? It's not the worst. Like, you're not worried for Ian Garry's power, right? That's not what you're worried about in this fight. You're worried about losing a 48-47 decision against Ian Garry. That's what you're worried about. And I think this fight's going to be won on the margins. It's a really close matchup, but it's going to be won in the clinch. It's going to be won on the fence. It's going to be won in the scrambles, and those are all aspects where Islam is better significantly than Ian Garry, right? I have no doubt in my heart that by the end of this fight, like I said, Ian Garry is going to have a higher output. He's going to defend a couple takedowns. I think he could even win the first round of the fight and maybe one of the later ones, the fourth or the fifth. But man, overall, Islam's going to be able to out-scramble him. He's going to out-wrestle him. He's going to take him down from the fence, from the clinch. And even if those takedowns don't last long, like he's not able to hold Ian for too long, they're going to count as control time. They're going to make an impression on the judges. And even if he doesn't get off a submission in this fight, he will threaten them. He'll threaten Kimuras. He'll threaten back takes. He'll threaten anything from the front headlock. And that's going to sway the judges. It's really going to put an impact on the judges. It's going to put an impact on everyone. And we need to hope and pray that Ian Garry doesn't win the belt. Maybe this is me manifesting. Maybe I'm biased in this matchup because I really don't want Garry to win. But man, we'll never hear the end of it. Even in his losses, we don't hear the end of it, bro. He lost his Shavkat, and the way he talks about it, you'd think he won that fight. Like, he's talking about it as if he's the one that put Shavkat in the retirement home. Shout out, by the way, shout out to Shavkat. His father passed away, if I'm not wrong, if my sources, you know, if Instagram is right. Condolences to Shavkat, that's my GOAT. I hope he comes back, and, you know, I hope he's fine. I hope, you know, shout out to his family, all of that. But yeah, man, I think if Islam wins this, he will be the defending champion in 2 weight classes, right? Well, he'll have broken Anderson Silva's record in the modern era over, you know, real competition, not like Anderson Silva's competition. And he'll have wins over top 5, top 10, top 15 fighters. 2 times over Volk. He beat Dustin Poirier, Charles Oliveira. Like, these are great wins. And in my opinion, this fight is completely pivotal, absolutely crucial for the anti-Jon Jones narratives. We need Islam to win for all the marbles, man. Islam Makhachev by decision. He becomes the GOAT of the sport. He finally dethrones Jon Jones. Well, I mean, there's always going to be Jon Jones glazers. You know, you ask whoever you ask on the street, there's a chance they're going to tell you Chuck Liddell is the GOAT of the UFC, right? So I think Makhachev beating Ian Garry is going to be the solution for all of these narratives. We're going to have one fighter who's like, okay, he's consistently gone against good competition. There's nothing you can say. No roids, right? No steroid accusations. Who knows what they be doing out there in Dagestan? But he's never popped for steroids. He hasn't missed weight in his fights. He hasn't done anything sketchy. Only thing you can point to, he's fought a bunch of, you know, featherweights, this and that, whatever. Those featherweights were Volkanovski. And, yeah, Volkanovski, bro. You want to call Charles Oliveira a featherweight, you're insane. You want to call Moicano a featherweight, you're sick in the head, alright? So only issues with Makhachev's career, if he beats Ian Garry, is that Moicano was short notice, and the second Volk fight was short notice. But that's not that bad, bro. That's still my GOAT, alright? He's my GOAT right now, and he'll be my GOAT for sure if he beats Ian Garry. So give me Ian Garry losing by decision to Islam Makhachev, the GOAT. Alright, thank you guys for watching. What do you guys think about this matchup? What do you think about this card? I know it's real buns. There's gonna be like 3 people watching this video. Let me know if you guys let me know what you guys think about I don't know, the Mansour Abdul Malik fight. No one gives a fuck, alright? Thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna go take a shower. Crazy work.